About to get started. Why don't you find your seats, kick back, sit down, and relax. I'd like to show you guys a real quick card trick. This is actually my favorite one. Just follow me down. Here we go. Let's do this. This is really a simple trick, okay? Really a simple trick. It deals with the 4 aces. We got the ace of diamonds, we got the ace of spades, we've got the ace of hearts, and the last one is the ace of clubs. Here we go. So now I'm going to take 3 cards. We'll put it on the ace of diamonds. We'll take 3 cards, put on the ace of spades, 3 on the ace of hearts, and 3 on the ace of clubs. All right? Now, here's what we're going to do. The ace of diamonds, that's the leader ace. We're going to put that right there. And we're not going to touch it again. Here we go. Now, if any of you guys have ever seen me do a trick before, no, none of you guys have ever seen me do a trick before, but here we go. I take cards and I count them, 1, 2, 3, 4. But then if I twist them, the ace turns face down. Just like that. This trick goes just a little bit farther than that, and it disappears. Here we go. We'll try that one again. Here we go. We got the ace of hearts now. Here we go. We got 1, 2, 3. And it's gone. And here's the last one, and this one is definitely my favorite. Watch, I'll take the ace of clubs, I'll turn it down. If I rub that there, it is gone. The 3 aces have left my piles, and you know, those who've been sitting there from the beginning, they haven't left your sight. Underneath these cards, you have the ace of spades, the ace of clubs, the ace of hearts, and the ace of diamonds. All right, guys, hey, that's all. Enjoy your church service. You guys have a great day. We'll see you next time.
guys? Welcome back to YOCF Summer episode 2.
Not 2.
This is 4.
4, 2.
2. Welcome to the episode. Hope you guys are doing well. We're gonna jump right in. We have a game that we're gonna play, and this is our next edition of What's Trending.
What's trending?
So here's the game. I'm going to show Hannah 2 TikTok videos. If you don't know what TikTok is, I can't help you.
Yeah, you guys should know more about TikTok than we do.
I'm gonna show 2 videos, and you guys will get to play along with us here. And the game is very simple. Which video do you think has more views on TikTok? Cool?
Yeah.
All right, so here we go. First one. Here, you can look here.
Okay.
It's quite the thing, huh?
When you're spending every day on your own, and here it goes. I'm just a kid.
Oh my gosh. Could you imagine?
Do you remember that song?
Yeah,
love that song.
I do. I sang it actually this week.
You sang it this week?
Yeah, I love that song. I sing it all the time.
It's a
Wow.
fun little stop motion video here.
That took so much time to
All right,
make.
which one has more views? Number 1 or number 2? What do you guys think? Go ahead and answer in the comments.
man.
Hannah, I don't know the answer here
I
either.
think
so
1 because it's like funny, but 2 took so much more time and it should have more.
It deserves
views.
more, huh?
It deserves more.
You want to take a guess at how many views they have? That's not part of the game,
I
but
don't know. Maybe like 3 million on the first one.
correct answer is number 1 by a lot. Wow.
18 million?
18 million views versus
That's
416,000.
insane. Also, I was right that this guy got less.
I know.
Do you guys know how long it takes to do stop motion?
Also, how sad is it that we're like only 400,000 views? That's so lame.
Yeah, like we get so many more on
I
this
know.
video.
If I got 400 views on something, I'd be pretty
I'ma
happy.
show you how to get it.
Yeah.
It go right foot up, left foot slide, left foot up,
Looks dangerous.
right foot slide.
Don't try that at home.
Basically, I'm saying either
Not
way
that
we
maybe you
bout to
guys, like, have
slide.
scaffolding.
Can't let this
I
one slide.
Okay. Or number 2.
Hello. Famous relative check.
No, stop it. Stop it.
Famous relative. What?
Do you know who the first guy is? Do you know who he is? David Dobrik?
Yeah.
Okay, just making sure. I was like, I don't know.
Okay. Number 1 or number
Gosh.
2. Also, the fact that
Yeah.
Howie is wearing a clickbait sweater too.
I'm gonna have to go with number 2 just because David Dobrik, I feel like would get a lot of
he's-
views, even though they're risking their lives for this TikTok on the
I know.
first one.
Like-
That's crazy.
So you're again gonna go for you think it's this one, but you
Yeah.
think the other one deserves more.
Yes.
So Hannah's guess is number 2. What do you guys think? The answer is number 2 again.
I don't like how TikTok works. That's ridiculous. They literally could have died.
And also that video was nothing.
I know, he's just like, let me flex in my
Yeah.
clickbait.
Yeah, there was choreography for this one.
I
There was
know.
death potential.
Potential
Still
death.
Yeah.
Come on.
All right, which one?
This is the moment you waited for.
It's so sweet. It's just like funny. Wait, stop. I love.
Wait, the laugh.
Wait, I'm dead with their hands. The hands. Playing around in it. Oh my gosh. Okay.
The laughing in there
I know.
really got me.
Definitely number 2 because who could not love watching that? Even though the one is endearing, it's definitely somebody's parents, and
Yeah.
you're like, oh, they're so cute. They
Yeah.
did a TikTok. Sweet. But like, you put a dog in your
Number 2
jacket.
is way more entertaining.
Yeah, it's way more
For sure,
entertaining.
for sure.
Also, too, it's a cute dog.
So your guess is number 2?
Yeah, number
or,
2, number
okay,
2.
but do you think number 1 deserves more likes?
It's sweet, but I think number 2, you had to look the mess that was made.
Yeah.
For number
Okay,
2.
The answer is number 2. 18 million views.
Dang.
Have you ever seen 18 million of anything?
Maybe grains of sand.
All right. Yeah. You're right.
Sorry.
Okay. Next
Sorry.
one. Next one.
Eat a waffle.
But can you eat it?
No.
Watch and learn. Come on.
Oh no. What?
What?
Oh
Whoa.
Wait, what?
Wait, that was fire.
Waffle. I know, that was crazy. Oh. Did you try this one?
I did try it. Did you try it?
I didn't have a.
have a booth?
to do it with.
This one's difficult for me.
Yeah.
I'm not really on TikTok, so.
I know. Again, I feel like it's gonna be Mysterious Rooms. Cool, sure. But the amount of production that went into #1 deserves more views. Also, how did he make those? I wanna
That's a
know
good
how
question.
to make them.
Those look edible.
Yeah, I think they are. Also, the
Giant
stick of butter on top. Oh my gosh, it's cute, and the kid's cute. But I think.
All right. I feel like it's gonna be like not even close.
Yeah,
Let's see.
unfortunate.
Oh!
I'm happy. They deserve the production again. Look at the lighting he has going on.
I mean, he did this with the syrup, which is kind of gross.
That's really gross. I would
Yeah.
never. You'd have to pay me, or I'd have to get 5.4 million views on something to do that with
I
syrup.
would probably do a lot of stuff if I knew I was gonna
For the
get
views.
5 million views on it.
That's concerning, Ryan. A little bit.
My loneliness is killing me, and I must confess
What's going
that
on?
I still believe.
I'm dead. Wait, that was so
Girl,
weird.
don't do it. It's not worth it.
Oh my gosh.
I'm not gonna do it, girl. I was just thinking about it. I'm not gonna do it. I did it.
Literally me. Oh my gosh, wait. Both of those
wait.
are so funny.
These two videos, I can feel the fact that I'm not on TikTok more with these two videos than in any of the other ones.
Why?
Like there are obvious inside jokes here
Yeah.
that I'm not picking up on. So 1 or 2, is it this bread with the
God.
Britney Spears song? Or, I'm not gonna
Gosh.
do it.
The grandma is so cute. I also love that TikTok sound. I think it's so funny when people use it. Well, you know what? One, because TikTok is just weird in what they choose.
So weird.
It's like gonna be the funnier one, and it's I'll go with 1, even though 2 with the cute grandma.
The answer is number 1. You really thought it was gonna be number 2,
I did
and that's
for a
why you
second.
chose number 1.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's basically the reverse of my humor. No, I'm just
Yeah.
kidding. I
Wow.
think they're all funny.
Wow.
That was good. That was a good game.
Yeah, that's fun. Thanks for playing along, guys. We have a couple of announcements for you guys here too. So what do we got, Hannah?
Okay, so just like we did in our last episode, after we're done, we are going to be doing a Zoom breakout room with whatever grade you're in or however we split you up with our high schoolers. So after this, check the chat and check the description down below, and we will have our
Doesn't
Zoom
it feel
link
so
I
fun
know.
to say things like that?
down below.
Guys, make sure you like, comment, subscribe, ring that bell, make
Ring
sure
it.
you guys
Ding,
are staying
ding,
up to date. Always wanted to say that.
Well, you just did. And then also you can find the link to our Zoom on OCF's website under the Student Ministries page as well. So in case there's any confusion, also just look at those places.
Yeah, tons of options.
Tons of options. But make sure you guys do that so we can do a little debrief discussion, have community after this. So yeah.
Get some prayer time.
Mm-hmm.
If none of those options work for you, then just text Hannah. I'll put her phone number in there, so just blow up
Thank
her
you.
phone. So we also have our daily devotions. We're doing our quarantine quiet times. Make sure you guys are friends with the YOCF Ministries on the YouVersion Bible app. If you have a smartphone, download it. We're going through the book of Psalms right now, and it's an incredible time. I love seeing all of your comments and your thoughts. Make sure you guys are doing that.
Just like as we were doing before earlier, pre us doing our summer episodes, we have YOCF in the Wild that is going to be every Sunday. A new episode of it will be coming out, and we are going through the fruits of the Spirit.
Yeah.
So it's definitely a good passage that I know that you guys are going to want to follow along with, and it's great to do it in community. So do it with your friends, maybe do it with your family, Zoom, FaceTime, whatever it is, to do it with other people and talk about it with others. It's great.
Fruit of the Spirit, not to be confused with fruit of the loom, which is something completely different. We are going to transition to our first segment of our episode, and we're going to go to our girl Haley is going to bring us our quarantine tip.
Our fitness queen.
man.
was quite a workout, Haley. Thank you.
I am shredded now. I'm super buff. I've never been more buff. Thank you, Haley.
Awesome. So, just like how we had last week's with Pearl, we still have a weekly challenge. So definitely send in
Weekly challenge.
challenge. So send in a picture of you, maybe a little post-workout sweaty selfie of you.
Hashtag sweaty selfie.
Hashtag sweaty selfie.
Is that a thing?
I don't know.
I hope
Maybe.
not.
I hope not. Send it to YOCF and we will pick a winner. Just like how we have a winner that's going to be posted on the Instagram right now from last week. If
Yes.
you guys recreated Pearl's quarantine snack recipe. That looked so dope.
It was delicious, probably. We are going to transition to our next part, and we're going to play a game, and this is one that you guys can participate in here too. So we're not going to leave this one. We're going to pass the ball, because it's a game, I don't know. We're going to pass it over to the one and only Ron Dunitz, who
Game
will lead us
Master
in
Dunitz.
our game. Take it away, Ron.
Hello, do you ever remember playing the game Where's Waldo? We're gonna play Where's Ron? I'm gonna go someplace in the South Bay, and at that point, you guys get a guess where I'm at. If you're looking right now, I'm in my shop, but I will be someplace else extremely soon. Hello! The question is, where's Ron? Seems to be a lot of trees around. Wide open area. There's a cool breeze coming in off of the ocean. And I'm in the middle of a city. I'm on some steps. As we walk around a little bit, you can just see a little bit of my surroundings. Nice big green grass area. Oh, there's a park across the street. That should probably give it away. But for those of you who need a little bit more info, there we go. El Segundo High School.
I hope that you guys missed playing Ron's games just as much as Ryan and I did.
Yep.
Give a good thumbs up in the comments if you also missed his games too. Now we're going to be going into an interview where Ryan is going to interview Denny, and we're going to play a fun game with him about some slang terms. We'll see what he knows and what he doesn't know, and also get to hear from one of our founding members of the church. Awesome.
Welcome, guys. Hello. Thanks for tuning in. Today we have the incredible Denny O'Keefe. Hi, Denny.
Hi, Ryan.
We'll be picking his brain a little bit and getting to know him a little bit better. We have an activity planned, which he has no idea about, so I think that'll be a good time. But Denny, why don't you just start and just introduce yourself a little bit to our students and your history with OCF.
Okay, I'd love to do that. Danny O'Keefe. I have a beautiful wife of 50-some years. 50-some years, Mimi. And she used to be teacher Mimi to the 2- and 3-year-olds. And I have a couple daughters, Megan and Leslie. And I came to OCF, actually this was God directing me. I had nothing really to do with this, but we were looking for some assistance with our very rebellious oldest daughter. And we heard about this pastor at Journey of Faith. It was called Community Baptist at that time. And we heard about him, and we decided, let's go see this youth minister. Like you, we would have gone to see you, had a reputation around the South Bay as being the place to be. And so we went and saw him, and we developed a relationship with him.
Yeah.
And over a period of a couple 3 years, things changed at that church at the time, and he was ready to move on, and he wanted to plant a church, and asked Mimi and I if we wanted to join him in that, and some other couples. So we did that. We started a church in our home.
Yeah.
This home.
In your home.
I mean, this church in our home, yes, in Manhattan Beach. And it was a blast. We had kids, and we had families, and we met in this big living room we had at the time, and outgrew that, went into one community center after another until we eventually got here.
So when you say that you came to OCF, what you really mean is that you started and established OCF in your living room.
Along with, these other couples and then the pastor, Duke Windsor, at the time,
Thanks for sharing that. We have an activity. So I have a list of some slang terms here.
Slang terms, oh boy.
And so some of these are slang terms of today, and some of them are slang terms from the 70s.
Oh yeah, well I could do pretty good on those.
Okay, so I'm gonna ask you to, I'm gonna give you a word and I want you to try and use it in a sentence. If you know what it means, then great, just use it how it's supposed to be used. If you have no idea what the term means.
Use any sentence.
Yeah, just try your best and then I'll tell you if you're right or wrong. How about that?
Okay, you got it.
Okay, so we'll do the 70s words first.
Okay. Warm me up a little bit.
Yeah. We'll build you up before we tear you down here.
Yeah.
Okay, so skinny.
Skinny.
How would you use that word in the 70s?
In the 70s, okay. Well, I guess I can't use skinny margaritas or skinny jeans. So that would be, let's see,
There's
skinny.
10-year-olds watching this.
Skinny, that's true, yeah. A skinny back then was related to, started by a model. Her name was Twiggy.
Oh, you have the history. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's where skinny, and from my recollection, started.
So what does it mean?
Skinny meant an anorexic female who started a new fashion trend.
Okay, I have two potential definitions for this.
All right, okay.
And this is, I wasn't alive in the 70s,
Yeah,
so this is just what the internet told me.
Okay,
so
right.
Skinny either means one of these two things, and neither of them are anorexic or small. So I don't know.
Groping through it. I don't even remember that word from the 70s.
Okay, well maybe. Okay, so does it mean either facts, information, or truth? For example, give me the skinny on the party after this
I do
weekend.
remember that, yeah.
Or does it mean awkward, like she's a little bit skinny on the dance floor?
I don't remember that one. I remember the other one.
Okay.
Give me the skinny, give me the lowdown. Yeah.
So like, it's an informative, trying to get information out of
Yes,
someone.
yes,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, so you're not doing so great on the 70s
No,
here.
I
So.
missed the first one, yeah.
Well, we won't keep score.
No, yeah.
Okay.
Don't hold it against me.
Next one, I've never heard of this one before.
By the way, there's no Bible trivia in here, is there?
There's not.
I don't want to really be embarrassed.
Yeah,
Okay.
we won't do that. You're not trying to be an elder or
No,
anything.
I'm retired from it. I forgot everything I've learned over 35 years. So.
Okay, what is a cheese weasel?
A cheese weasel is basically, you've heard of the animal, the weasel.
Right?
Yeah, there are certain weasels that actually thrive on cheese. So they eat all kinds of cheese, and their favorite, though, is Limburger cheese.
Are you making this up?
That's what I recall. Yes, of course I make it up. I have no idea what a cheese is.
You don't know what that is? Okay,
No.
wherever
That's
I
from the
found
70s
these
too?
Yeah.
Oh.
This told me that it's a frustrating person. Don't be such a cheese weasel.
These must be coming from the East Coast or the West Coast.
Yeah,
I grew up
okay.
in the Midwest. We didn't talk like that.
Okay.
But,
Okay. Very cool. Now let's move on to some of today's slang.
Okay, yeah, all right.
Okay. Try and use YOLO in a sentence.
YOLO, huh? Well, J-Lo, who is a female artist, named her first child. What was her name again? Lolo? Waylo?
YOLO.
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 YOLO. Named her first child YOLO.
Okay, that's a good guess.
Yeah.
YOLO is actually an acronym
I see.
that stands for You Only Live Once.
Oh.
So it's
that's
like
a good thing to remember.
Yeah, so it's kind of a phrase people will use when they're, I don't know, if they're like trying to jump across a clearing or something. It's like YOLO, no regrets,
Yeah,
or
no
something
regrets,
like that.
yeah. I like that.
Have you heard that one before?
I have not, no.
All right, let's try the next one.
I haven't even seen the acronym in a text, so
You could try that one with your grandkids.
maybe I should text people under 50. That might
Yeah,
be
maybe
helpful.
they'll know it.
Yeah.
Here's the next one. How would you use the phrase lit fam in a
Lit
sentence?
fam. Lit fam.
It's 2 words.
Yes, exactly like it sounds. Okay, lit fam would be the time when a person has a younger person, let's say a mid-school, high school, has
Okay.
an argument with someone in their family, and it lights them up. It makes them angry.
That's
Lit
pretty
with
close.
some fam. Is it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's not.
That's not it, though.
You want me to? Do you want?
Yeah, I'd like to.
I would love for you to try and. Okay, how about the challenge for the rest of the interview is
Okay.
you have to try and use these phrases while we talk. So lit fam, lit means something is really cool.
Cool. Oh.
Like something's on fire, like it's really awesome.
Yeah.
And fam is like another way of saying like bro, like it's like a, it's like a
like
or
that,
dude, yeah. So that's awesome.
I try to
bro.
get my grandkids to start a new style when they were in school. So I told them to use the word mint when something was really
Mint.
cool.
Yeah.
Say, hey, that's really mint, and see if it catches on. And they just
We'll
shook
try
their
it.
head.
Maybe, yeah. Try it with the youth group.
Yeah. Okay. Mint.
What has enabled you to be faithful through all of those years following Christ?
Well, it's a combination of things, but I'd say, I mean, we go through peaks and valleys, all of us do as Christians, and periods of doubt and periods of, just walking away from the normal routine of doing things. But it's the basic things like being connected with God and communion with God through His Word, and in prayer, time with Him, spending time, doing the things that I didn't feel like doing at the time, and also staying connected with His people, like this, word worship one another,
Yeah.
not worship one another.
Not-
One another
yeah,
and others.
we don't wanna worship.
Yeah, right. No, that'd be bad. But these are the things that have drawn me back to just during those times of doing the things I wasn't in the mood to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's helped.
Yeah. So how do you, I know for myself personally, and I'm sure for a lot of our students, we've experienced these peaks and valleys, like you mentioned.
Yeah.
And when we're in those peaks, worshiping God, being in His Word, being in community comes very easily. But what about when you're in those valleys and following God is difficult or you don't have the desire to do it? How were you able to come out of those valleys and still remain faithful?
Yeah. Well, in my case, I had no choice, but I also deliberately stayed connected with people. And so all those years, I was part of the elder team.
Yeah.
And the elder team has always been kind of my small group.
Yeah.
And for most of those years, it's been pretty transparent.
Yeah.
And so we could talk about the things we're struggling with, and we would do that, and we'd pray for each other.
Yeah.
And it didn't happen like overnight that you come
Yeah.
out of that valley.
Yeah.
But I always knew that not to base my feelings and my faith in God, my trust in God, on how I'm feeling at any one particular time.
Yeah.
That I knew there's going to be these hills and valleys, and I just had to stay connected. That's the way I learned from the people that discipled me when I first became a Christian.
Yeah.
And that's the only way I found out of it. So
Yeah, that's good.
Get out of it.
That's good. How would you recommend that our students stay connected, especially in this season where we're quarantined or on lockdown, we're not supposed to be seeing each other? So how can our students remain connected?
Yeah.
And how are you remaining connected?
Yeah. Well, I'd say the same thing. There's still a way to stay connected with other people, and I would encourage anybody in there that are younger, because I'm sure you're experiencing this now during this time more so than we ever did when we weren't locked down in the years that I was growing up. But there's still ways of. It takes a little bit of nerve to do this, but reaching out to Hannah, to Ryan, to others that you trust in the leadership team of the youth, and just don't bear this on your own shoulders. Don't try to do it alone. Get a hold of somebody else you trust and talk with them about it, because there's a lot of, even if the person just listens, it's good to kind of bare your soul and talk about these things and talk about instead of internalizing them.
Yeah.
And I have never been as good about that myself, because I grew up in a Scandinavian background, and feelings and discussions about these things was never modeled too much in our home.
Yeah.
So we never did much of that. We just kind of had to, grit our teeth and be tough and all like that. But I don't think that's the path out of it. I think the path out of it is staying connected with other people. Once you start isolating, and I see this a fair amount with people, once you start isolating, the hole gets deeper and deeper instead of filling up and getting you out of it. So
It's so true that God created us to live in community and be in community, that the friends that God has given us is really a gift.
It is.
And I love seeing our students caring for each other. I love seeing our leaders caring for our students. And at the same time, I know that there are so many students who have so many hurts and feelings that are being unsaid. And so that's a great encouragement. You guys heard it from Denny himself. If you guys need anything, reach out. Nobody's going to be judgmental or think any less of you. And that's what's beautiful about the church and being connected and being centered
Yo
on
fam.
Christ. Yeah, lit fam.
Lit fam.
Lit fam.
What happened to yo? What was yo?
YOLO.
Oh, YOLO.
YOLO.
That's right.
Did you say yo fam?
Yo fam. I think it's a new one. We might have a
That's
new one here.
There you go. We'll use that.
Yeah.
2 more questions for you.
Okay, all right.
OCF has been around for 35 years now. What is your favorite thing that has changed in the 35 years? We'll keep it positive.
Yeah,
won't go
no, I
least
think the
favorite.
favorite thing that's changed is, I'm not sure if you probably talk about this with the youth, but my favorite thing, I think, is the plurality, the sharing model that we have.
Yep.
Really started coming into being realistically in about 2000, 2001.
And just for our students who might not know, could you give a quick explanation of what
Sure.
the plurality is that you're talking about?
Yeah. A lot of churches have one individual, one pastor that is in charge of the church, and everybody reports up to him. We have 9 or 10 of us at a particular time, and that shares the ministry, shares the responsibility, shares the preaching, the pulpit. You see that happen as well, and it gives time for all the different leaders to spend the time they need with their family, with their wives, and it keeps them healthy. And a church can only be as healthy as its leaders.
Yeah.
So it's really a burden sharing between all of the leaders, and we try to actually duplicate that throughout the church as well. So I'm sure you've got that in your own ministry here as well.
Yeah, and I think that even goes back to the community that's so important that you were talking about earlier. It establishes accountability and community at the highest levels of our church, which I think is such a great thing.
Exactly.
Yeah. Last question for you as we close out here today. Do you have any wisdom or advice that you think is good for our students to hear? So take into account kind of the culture that we live in, the wisdom and experience that you've lived through, and I'll leave it that open-ended. So what do you think is worth our students hearing?
Yeah. Well, the one thing that sticks in my mind is the one thing I kept trying to hammer into this men's group that I had for 10 years. And I don't know if it ever connected with them or not, but I think one of the most important and foundational things in our life is growing in our trust of God. And what I mean by that is not just that God exists, but that God is there for us. God has our back. God is a real person that cares for us, even though we can't see him and touch him right now. And that's a foundational issue. I think when people start slipping or sliding, and I notice in my own life, the doubts start creeping in, which happens to everybody, but doubts start creeping in, and it takes over the reality that God is in control and God is for us and God loves us. And once we start walking away from that trust for him, I think a lot of problems are compounded and a lot of difficulties in our life. So even when, again, we're talking about earlier, this should result in that, in the idea of trusting God and be realistic. You're going to go through periods when that is stronger than others, but don't let go of it. Keep on going back to that, knowing that God is in control, God cares for you, and God loves you.
That's good. That's good. Well, Denny, thank you for
You're welcome.
coming and spending some time with us. Denny is one of the founding members of our church, and the church was started in his living room, and he's still around. So
Still alive, still breathing.
Yeah, I don't mean like you're still around, you're not dead. I mean like you're still here and involved in the church. So if any of you guys, when we're here physically together, if you see Denny, would love for you guys to say hello and
Please.
introduce yourself to him too. So Denny, thank you, appreciate it.
You're welcome, Ryan.
We'll send it back to the desk. Thanks, Denny, and thanks, Ryan. That was a riveting interview. Well done to both of you guys. But seriously, Denny is one of the most wise and humble and fun dudes to be around. So it was a great time to get to hang out with him, spend some time with him, and teach him some of the words that we use. So,
Yo, fam.
Yo, fam. Exactly,
Right?
exactly. So thanks, Denny, for taking the time to do that. We are going to transition to one of my personal favorite things, and honestly, one of the things that I've been missing the most. We're going to transition to our girl Pearl for a couple songs of worship. So let's cease our chats for a few minutes here so we can just spend some time. And I know this is going to be weird. We'll just acknowledge that worship on the computer is really difficult and really strange. But at least in this time, just take the opportunity to just listen through the words and read through the words and maybe just let them be your prayer today.
Yeah.
Yeah. So take it over, Pearl.
Standing here in your presence, in a grace so relentless, I am won by perfect love. Wrapped within the arms of heaven, in a peace that lasts forever, sinking deep in mercy. See, I'm wide awake, drawing closer Your love so deep, it's washing over me. Your face is all I see. You are my everything. Jesus Christ, you are my one desire. Lord, hear my only cry, to know you all my life. Oh, your love so deep, it's washing over me. Your face is all I see. You are my everything. Jesus Christ, you are my one desire. Lord, hear my only cry, to know you all my life. Wide awake, drawing close, stirred by grace, and all my heart is yours. All fear removed, I breathe you in, I lean into your love. Oh, your love. Worthy of every song we could ever sing, worthy of all the praise we could ever bring, worthy of every breath we will ever breathe. We live for you, only you. Jesus, the name above every other name. Jesus, the only one who could ever save. Worthy of every breath we could ever breathe. We live for you. Oh, we live for you. And holy, there is no one like you. There is none beside you. Open up my eyes in wonder and show me who you are, and fill me with your heart and lead me in your love to those around me. I will not be shaken. I will build my life upon your love. It is a firm foundation, and I will put my trust in you alone, and I will not be shaken. And holy, there is no one like you. There is none beside you. Will you open up my eyes and wonder, and please show me who you are and fill me with your heart and lead me in your love to those around me. I will build my life upon your love. It is a firm foundation. I will put my trust in you and you alone, and I will not be shaken.
Hey guys, so as you guys know, we are going through a sermon series on our summer episodes of us going through some of Jesus' parables. And so today we're going to be talking about Matthew 7, where we are going to be looking at do not judge in the parable of the sawdust and a plank in the eye. So let's take a look and read it first. Do not judge, so that you won't be judged. For you will be judged by the same standard with which you judge others, and you will be measured by the same measure you use. Why do you look at the splinter in your brother's eye, but do not notice the beam of wood in your own eye? Or how can you say to your brother, let me take the splinter out of your eye, and look, there's a beam of wood in your own eye? Hypocrite! First take the beam of wood out of your eye, and then you will see clearly to take the splinter out of the brother's eye. Don't give what is holy to dogs, or toss your pearls before pigs, or they will trample them under their feet and turn and tear you into pieces. Okay, so we can look at this, and there are lots of different people that look at this verse and they're like, oh, use it in a way as maybe as an excuse to say, you can't judge me, which is true. This verse is saying, this passage is saying, do not judge. We're not supposed to be judging one another. But there is a different kind of way that we can look at it, where we're checking our own judgment of why we feel this need to be judging other people. Are we even allowed to ever judge anybody else? And also something else where we're going to call it a mirror check, to make sure that we are fully aware of what's going on with ourselves before we go and speak out against somebody else. And so as we look into what it looks like to check our own judgment, let's ask ourselves some questions. Why do you feel so strongly about what's going on in somebody else's life? Why do you feel like this is something that you have to confront? Is it because you are seeing what they're doing and you genuinely think it's wrong and it's a problem that you should come and address? Do you think it's wrong that they're getting away with something that maybe you wish you could be getting away with? Where is it coming from? What's the source of why you feel this sense of judgment? And so when we look at this passage, the whole point of it is saying that sometimes we can look and see what's going on in front of us and look at somebody else and not even address what's going on with ourselves. When I think about this story, I think of how when sometimes we'll be out eating and I spill on myself, I'm like always going to tell somebody, you spilled on yourself, and not even notice that I have something all over me because, you know, things happen. I spill coffee on myself constantly. And so just think about it in this way of what we need to be doing first is looking at what's going on with ourselves first before we can speak out on what somebody else is going through, what they're doing in their actions first, because we have to be coming from a place of humility and humbleness, and we can't do that if we won't even recognize what's going on in our own hearts and in our own lives first. And so another part of us checking our judgment is, how are we reacting? Are we reacting with anger towards what somebody is doing? Are we feeling super saddened by what they're doing? Is it genuinely a concern because we care so much for this person? And trying to judge where that is going on, and that can help determine why we feel this way. And so we can also look at when we are actually allowed to judge other people. And so in Matthew 18, there is a whole list of what it looks like for us to be able to go through the steps and process of how to help somebody that we feel like is going through something that either they're choosing to do something that's sinful, like maybe you know somebody that's cheating on a test, or maybe somebody that's talking badly about your other friends, or maybe you know somebody that might be partying or doing something that you really think is a great risk, and they call themselves a Christian. That's the point of this passage, is that we are allowed to call other people who are Christians and hold them accountable for what they do. Because often sometimes people read this and they say, you can't judge me. That's something that is not true. We are allowed to have a sense of judgment, but in a way to help keep our brothers and sisters in Christ accountable and to help them be loved well, and that they're going to be encouraged to do the right thing. And so when we look at the Matthew 18 passage where it describes of what we can and can't do, and how we are to go about it of judging somebody, or at least bringing and presenting a sin that somebody else is doing, the first thing that we can do is, are they a Christian and what are they doing wrong? And addressing it, that if they're a Christian, we can hold them to the standard that God has set before us. And also, if you know them well enough to even be speaking into their life, that's a huge part of us being able to confront other people in judgment. Number 3 is, are you going to come at them in a way of love and listening and trying to help? A lot of times we can come at people and unwilling to hear why they might be in the state that they're in to make the choices of falling into sin. Maybe they need somebody who has to come next to them and support them. And genuinely, that's most of the time, people just need to have somebody walk with them in their life to understand why they're making these choices, why they feel like this is the best thing for them, for us to be able to help get them into a place where we are both keeping each other accountable. And also to ask other people to help in this process as well if you feel like it's not going well. And then the 5th thing is, we're going to talk about what it's going to look like to do a mirror check. And so before we can even get into this step of us looking at somebody who is a fellow Christian and judging whatever aspect is going on, we have to take a look at what's going on in our own hearts first. And so it would look so silly if we just are so unaware of what's going on with ourselves and then to call out somebody else when it's so evident that we have just as much, if not more, of a sin that is overwhelming our hearts in everything that we're doing. And so we need to take a step back and ask ourselves, where is my heart's intentions of calling attention to this other person's wrongdoing? Why do you feel like this is something that you need to do? Is it because you want to talk about something wrong, as in an injustice that's going on? Do you want to really genuinely help this person? Are you mad at this person? Are you feeling jealous maybe of what's going on in their life that they're able to do because nobody's holding them accountable, but other people are holding you accountable? Try and see where that is first, and if it's really truly coming out of a place of love, care, and humility. And also, we need to come at it humbly as well. The next question that we can ask ourselves is, why do I feel the need to speak up? Is it because you really genuinely know this person well enough to be able to speak into their lives? Or do you feel like it is something that you have the right to do because you know right from wrong, and so you have to impose it on somebody else? We need to be careful with our words and the way that we have these kinds of conversations with people, because anytime we're bringing up sin or a conflict of beliefs or something that somebody is doing, we cannot come into it as a debate or something that is going to lead to a lot of anger that builds up, but come into it as a conversation of how we can work to help each other understand where each other is coming from, build each other up to know and follow what God is calling us to do as Christians as well, and to be avoiding sinful nature and help encourage each other in that as well. The third point is that, do I have a right to speak into this person's life? Is this somebody that you genuinely know? Is this somebody that you care about and love, and they have been asking you to speak into their life? Or is this a stranger that you met online? We have to keep that into account of people are more willing to hear critique from one another if we are present in their lives, and that means that you are daily with them. Right now, we obviously can't physically be with each other, but how often are you checking in on this person? Do you feel like you genuinely know this person enough to have them speak into your life as well, for it to be a two-way street? And then the other
question we can ask ourselves is, am I ready to sit and listen? Really genuinely hear what's going on in the other person's heart, just as much as you would want somebody to do that for you if you were making choices or if you were living in a sin that is really heavy and overwhelming to you. It's going to help if somebody sits and listens to hearing where you are to what got you to this point. And so we want to be doing that for other people as well. And just as it says in Matthew 22, we are to love our neighbors as ourselves. And so if we want somebody to genuinely love us and sit with us in all of these things, we have to treat other people the way that we want to be treated. And that also first starts with that we are looking inwardly of what's going on with us before we go and try and attempt to help somebody else and go and do something with them. I always think of, in a rule of lifeguarding, you have to make sure that you are safe as a lifeguard before you can go and save somebody else. And so this even goes into the context of this story, is that, am I in a place where I'm able to do this? Am I free of sin in my life that's holding me back? Am I free of having people critique where I'm at before I go in there and try and help somebody else of where they're at? Because if there's two people that are panicky and drowning, they're both going to sink down together instead of one being strong enough to come and take the other person out. And so another question we need to ask ourselves is, how can I humbly approach this conversation? Because I know that a lot of us right now are being put in conversations that might be difficult. There's a lot of judgment that's going on of what you do or do not believe, what you do or do not post, what you do or do not think is the right thing that's going on. But we need to be able to humble ourselves before we come into these conversations, before we start to judge other people, and especially as Christians, before we start allowing there to be anything that causes us to not love each other well. And the last question to ask ourselves is, what is the goal of the outcome of this conversation? What do you want it to look like? Do you want to walk away with this and having that person come to recognize what sin is going on in their heart? Or do you want them to be frustrated over the situation at hand and they feel unloved and unheard? And so even if somebody is doing something completely wrong in your eyes, we need to, again, take a step back, look at what's going on in our own hearts. Are we ready and prepared to even have this kind of a conversation, enter into this time with one another? And even if it's somebody that you hold so much animosity towards, we are still called to love them and pray for them, even if they are doing something that we completely don't agree with, in hopes that God is going to be the one that's doing a work. That's the bottom line of this, is that we don't have a place to fully judge anyone, because God is the only one that has a place to have a full, complete judgment, and he's the only one that's going to be able to fully eradicate any sin that's going on in somebody's life. But what we can do before we go and jump into these conversations is look at what's going on in our hearts, pray for our friends and family, or whoever this person might be that you have that comes to mind when you think of this passage, and address that God is going to be the one that's going to do a work in their heart, and he's going to be the one to change what's going on, and to actually pray for them in hopes that God will be stirring something in their heart for them to move forward from whatever sin is wrapping in them. But I hope that you guys can really take this into account and stop and ask yourself these questions. Do a mirror check to make sure that before you leave into these conversations that you are ready and prepared to see what you look like first before you go and try and approach somebody else and call out something. So let's pray. God, I thank you so much just for your word and your wisdom that comes with it. I just pray over these students that they will be able to take into account of that you are a God who is good, who's great, who is filled with such a care for justice and righteousness. I just pray that we can be able to trust you, and that we are able to understand completely of what your plans are in the midst of any conversation that we need to have, or frustration in relationships. We just are so thankful that we have a God like you who we can lean on, and that is in just constant conversation with us, as well as we wrestle what's going on within our hearts, that you are there with us, and that you have given your spirit to guide us in these conversations, give wisdom, and just to bring a peace about us. We love you, and we're so thankful for you.